Hey everybody and welcome to my breakdown of episode 1062. Coming off after the cinematic masterpiece that is 1061, now it's Zoro's turn. And considering the difference in animation treatment Sanji and Zoro have been getting, with Zoro getting 3 limited episodes for his fight, it's only fair for this episode to be insanely stacked. Ryosuke Tanaka has proved himself time and time again to be one of our best directors on the anime. One of the young directors who made drastic progression on the series. His magnum opus so far is episode 1033, which many considered one of the best episodes in all of One Piece. Some of the things that make Tanaka great is his ability to add interesting original content, which allowed him at one point to not only elevate characters like Kaido, but also carry a big portion of the intense action that was off-screen. So we already expect on this episode original content that isn't present in the manga, whether it's expanding on flashbacks and characterization or storyboarding original yet dynamic action. The wild part this time is that Tanaka is teaming up with someone too legendary. The action master Katsumi Ishizuka is assisting Tanaka by storyboarding half of the episode. This is by far Ishizuka's most ambitious storyboard yet, and Tanaka receiving such assistance will allow him to even put more focus to his parts. And the icing on the cake is that Ishizuka is even participating as an assistant animation director, meaning his raw artwork will give the climactic parts of the fight an unforgettable look. To execute Ishizuka's intense storyboard, he needs capable animators, and having someone like Vincent Chansard, the French animator, delivering insanity on his board just makes me question the heights this anime is aiming for. Both Vincent and Ishizuka are all about large-scale spectacles, so it's a perfect combination. Now without further ado, the second championship match of the 4, Zoro vs King the Wildfire. How good was it? Seriously, where do you even start with this episode? I hope I can do at least a decent job talking about this because it's so insane, it's scary, it's overwhelming. First, let's talk about Tanaka's direction and storyboarding. Right from the beginning, you can tell that this episode is different. Tanaka's framing displays why he's an amazing storyboard artist, giving Zoro and King their own separate space, contrasting them well with the use of colors and amazing compositing. As you'd expect from Tanaka, his action storyboarding is more grounded, which is perfect for a first half of an episode. The action is great with young animators handling them mostly before the absolute monsters enter the second half. The grounded action was creative with unique angles, and Tanaka uses the environment to his advantage. You'll see Zoro bouncing off walls and stuff. Also, Tanaka's direction using negative space and slow motion effectively when the combatants make contact is very cool. Two little complaints I have, or nitpicks, is the missed potential for good swordplay, kinda like John Wintan's work in Act 2. Another little complaint is the action storyboarding in some parts. It feels a bit too zoomed in and cramped. Sometimes, of course. This is something I've also addressed in Tanaka's board in 1033 Climax. However, it's not a deal breaker. One thing to also praise in Tanaka's episodes is his artistic decisions when it comes to auras and effects. It's much cleaner than other episodes, a bit more tamed too. Gladly, he has the support of an elite photography team with Naoyuki Wada at the helm. Now, before getting to the animators, let's talk about the MVP of this episode without a doubt, Katsumi Ishizuka. His storyboard made the scale of this fight simply ridiculous, as if it was the final fight of an arc. But also, for the majority of the action, you'll see Ishizuka's corrections, his smears and intense facial expressions. It felt like he animated the whole thing sometimes. It's otherworldly stuff. It's beyond me that an animator who started working on One Piece since like Whiskey Peak is able to still surpass himself on several levels. Now let's get to the animators because this episode is insanely stacked. Also, it's worth noting that Sota Shigetsugu contributed to the storyboard as well. He storyboarded his own scene back in episode 1001. When Zoro vs King dropped in the manga, he tweeted that he would like to storyboard on it. So I'm glad he was able to achieve that. Now obviously I won't be able to talk about every animator, but I'll try my best to highlight what I consider the best. Toranosuke Hori is an animator fairly new to the industry. He did a great job for the more grounded Zoro action. The smears add intensity to the speed. His effects are also pretty good. King getting unmasked was surprisingly a very well animated scene. I don't even think little stuff like this needs such attention, but I'm glad it did. We don't know who is the animator yet, but I'm suspecting either corrected Masami Mori or his students. Reason is how King's hair moves. It's very similar to Hawkins' scene with Mori as the animation director. This is another sequence I liked. It's possibly Isuta Meister's work. I enjoyed how the effects are moving in slow motion with the wind. It creates good anticipation, and this is also corrected by Ishizuka. Amazing effects and background animation, but it's just a tiny taste of what's coming. We get the flashback, and holy smokes, it's such an amazing adaptation that elevates the characters, showcases why presentation is very important when you tell a story. French animator Dorian Coulon animated King's action bits in it. There's real sense of volume with each character acting cut. Very good work. Fasto also participated on this episode right after a previous one. He got a chance to animate on both Zoro and Sanji's climax episodes. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where his cut is considering he's corrected by Ishizuka, but I'm assuming he did this part. Tatsuya Miki animated Zoro's bird dance. He's an animator who joined the One Piece team officially a while ago. He used to work on Black Clover, for example, and I must say that his work here is his best on the show yet. Miki's impact frames have always been a delight to see, but the slow motion, smears, and background animation made this one of my favorite bits of the episode. It's pretty much impossible to guess who animated this section here because Ishizuka's corrections were too heavy. It feels like he was the animator himself, but it was an absolutely phenomenal scene. The smears are very extreme, creating a bombastic flow of action. Now, I genuinely can't find the words for the pure insanity Vincent chansard just pulled on this episode. Vincent always impressed us, especially with Kaido's scenes. Now that he joined the team officially for the climax, and hands down this is top 3 best animated scenes in the entire One Piece franchise. One of the greatest pieces of animations I've ever seen in my entire life. A full minute and 40 seconds of non-stop madness. This shouldn't even be possible to achieve. I think this scene could get its own video, that's how good it was. But as usual, Vincent's 3-dimensional animation with his trademarks such as absurd impact frames, absurd background animation, and just the volume of every subtle movement is jaw-dropping. If you remember Vincent's work from episode 1048, he did the little bit of impact frames showcasing Yamato's backstory, and he did something similar with King here. He literally tells a story in impact frames only. This dude lives in his own universe. I'm glad Vincent got a chance to work on Ishizuka's board just like Ota did in 1049, because to me these two are the best animators in the industry right now, and Ishizuka can give them a push to reach higher levels. Now this was the build-up for the final hit. German animator Yen BM or Chris animated the climax, easily the best work in his career yet. He takes big inspiration from Ishizuka and Yutaka Nakamura, so working with Ishizuka allowed their styles to go in perfect harmony. The way Zoro runs on the rocks in the air to reach King legit feels like a final boss fight in a fantasy game. He animated 3 minutes by himself. Every single animator on this episode is pushing their limits, and that's only possible with a passionate staff. It wasn't enough for Chris to animate the absurd climax, but he also did the King of Hell conclusion bits. Chills all over my body, especially with Zoro's new theme. This episode is historic, best action episode in all of One Piece without a doubt so far, and it's unfathomable that we have yet to hit the peak of the action in this arc. 10 out of 10 episode, 1 for the history books. 1061 and 1062 are the peak of Zoro and Sanji. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe. See you next time with the last 2 Wano fights.